Hello everyone, my name is Gunnison and I am a digital and film photographer from Western Colorado, and today I'm doing my first gear review. This is on what I call my perfect everything lens, my 70-200 f4. It's the first L series lens from Canon that I've bought, and L series, of course, they're more professional line of lenses, and I've been very happy with it. I've shot portraits, aviation, landscapes, sports, everything with this lens, and I love it. So I want to tell you really what I like about it, and really there's nothing in particular that I dislike about it. So I'll give you all the pros of the lens, and yeah, let's get right into it. So this is the lens, the 70-200 f4 from Canon, and I've owned this now for probably about half a year, and I've already taken thousands of images with it. Love it. I usually use it with my EOS R. It's not on the EOS R right now because that's the camera I'm using to film this. We'll take a closer look at some of the controls here. This isn't a super technical review, but I'll just give a brief overview of the switches on the side here. You have the full focus and limited focus switch. Limited focus limits it to 2.5 meters. Usually the minimum focus distance is 0.6 meters, so 1.97 feet. Then autofocus, manual focus, of course, but then down here you have your stabilizer switch, and the stabilizer, of course, on and off. And down here you have 3 stabilizing modes. The third stabilization mode I don't really use. Basically all it does is only stabilize the picture when you're taking it. It doesn't stabilize what you're seeing through the viewfinder. So I usually prefer shooting with stabilizer mode 1 or 2. 1 does vertical and horizontal. I usually am using stabilizer mode 2 though. Stabilizer mode 2 only does vertical stabilization, so that you can track a subject while panning a little bit easier and not have to worry about, shaking up and down. So that's been really helpful, particularly when it comes to aviation and motorsports. Of course, tracking really fast subjects when I'm shooting those. The weight and the size of it are really nice. It's a very small lens. It's about the same size as Canon's 24-105 f4 L series lens. I don't have that one, but the two of them together make a really nice kit. Now, this of course is the f4 version. Canon does have an f2.8 version of this lens as well. And the f2.8 I like, but I did not buy it. I didn't pull the trigger because it cost $1,000 more. And doing photography kind of semi-professionally for a couple of years here, it wasn't anything that made financial sense yet at the time. The f2.8 clearly has advantages. It's sharper. It's a little more versatile in low light. Has an extra stop of light, but it is also heavier, and it costs $1,000 more. So this made sense for me, and I think for a lot of other people who are kind of at this same stage in their career, it's going to make sense for you as well. I watched dozens of reviews and comparisons of each lens, and at the time I felt like I made the right decision with this one, and I still feel that way. So let's get into the different usages of it. Start with portraits. For portraits, it's a decent lens. It's not going to give you the best backgrounds as far as portraits go. However, especially if you get closer to a subject, you can create some pretty decent stuff. You don't want to use it much probably if you're shooting portraits with not a lot of light. If it's dusk or you're shooting indoors, definitely get something probably of at least aperture of f2 unless you want to use a higher ISO. But with portraits with plenty of light like golden hour or a fairly bright overcast day, this thing performs really nicely. I would not recommend using it with busier backgrounds. It doesn't blur the backgrounds quite enough for that, but it works pretty well for fairly neutral or more interesting backgrounds. So I've shot portraits with this lens with a mountain background. So the mountains are out of focus, but you can still kind of tell which mountains they are. And where I live out here in Western Colorado, I kind of like that. It's part of the storytelling, is not completely blurring out the mountains, kind of still showing the character while still not distracting from my subject. Again, not perfect for every usage as far as portraits go, but it's a decent lens for that. Where it really excels is with things like sports, aviation, even landscapes. So I've used this for some sports photography for local newspapers, and it's pretty good, even for indoor games. Usually I push ISO up to about 6400 or 8000. Usually they come out looking pretty good. I've even shot night football games on it and got results that I'm very happy with. For aviation, that's one of the biggest things that I use it for. I like using slower shutter speed, panning a little bit, and this works really well for that. So I've shot a lot of stuff out at our local airport here with this lens, and it gets an A+ as far as that goes. It always captures the sides of the airplane super sharp, lots of detail. The one fault it has as far as aviation is if you're shooting a smaller plane or a plane that's further away, it lacks a little bit in reach. 200 millimeters isn't always enough. Actually, at the Grand Junction Air Show earlier this year, I often found myself using this 100 to 400 lens instead. It's not as bright, it's not as sharp, but it has more range, and sometimes that is just what you need. And then I've used it a little bit for motorsports too. I gave it a spin at the Kansas Speedway earlier this year, and I wish I would have used it more than I did. Again, I wound up using the 100 to 400 a lot because I wanted range, but really when it came down to the panning that I was trying to do at the racetrack using shutter speeds as low as a 50th, a 40th, a 30th of a second, the 70 to 200 did so much better. For landscapes, it's really good for landscapes. Not going to be for everyone. If you like shooting wider angle landscapes, this definitely isn't the lens for you. But if, like me, you like shooting telephoto and getting it a little bit more in on the details of the mountains and the trees, you'll like this. I've even shot it wide open a bit, and I've created images like this that have really out of focus aspen foreground that look really cool. So for a basic overview and recap, overall it's a grade A lens. There's very little you can't use this for in general photography. It is weather sealed. It does have weather sealing gasket back here. All the different seams throughout are also weather sealed. So that's a huge benefit of getting an L series lens. It's very lightweight. It's just been fantastic. So yeah, that's about all I had to say about it. I'd love to offer a critique of this lens, but really it's just not let me down at all, other than, again, that one downside of range. I will mention that this one actually is used. I bought this from KEH.com. And I'm not sponsored or affiliated with them at all, but I recommend them. They are my #1 shop for anything used camera gear. I've gotten several pieces of excellent gear from them, and this is definitely the best. If you've used this lens before, go in the comments, let me know what you think of it. Yeah, just feel free to give your thoughts. If you have a critique of it, go ahead. I'm open to hearing that. There may have been something I missed, or I'm just not thinking of at the moment. I really appreciate all of you watching. Really hope that if you're in a similar position to where I was when I was looking to buy this lens, I hope this review helped you. Hopefully it informs a decision a little bit more. I'll be doing more reviews soon on hopefully some pretty interesting stuff. I have some film gear I want to share with you all. I have a couple of unusual lenses from Canon, but just keep an eye out for the next video. Also, if you did subscribe for my airshow content, I do plan on doing a little kind of tutorial, whatever you want to call it, on how I shot the airshow and what gear I used, what techniques I used. So if you're interested in that, let me know as well. Hopefully that'll be the next video or one of the next several videos that I make. So again, thank you all for watching. You all have a wonderful day, and God bless.